If your firm talked to 30 people last month who didn't retain you and you left it at that, you're literally wasting revenue buried in your CRM. This episode shows you the difference between losing leads and recovering revenue. Welcome back to the Sterling Family Law Show. I am your host, Tyler Dolph. I'm also the CEO of our family law firm only consultancy called Rocket Clicks that was born out of our very own family law firm, Sterling Lawyers, that will do over $20 million in revenue this year. Today, we're going to talk with Mary and Tony again on the power of follow-up and what we do at Sterling. Mary and Tony, welcome back to the Sterling Family Law Show. You know, we're coming off an amazing webinar that we just completed, had record attendance, and it was all about the intake process at Sterling. And so we thought, okay, we need to expand on this and really dive a bit deeper. And so today we're going to talk about the myth as it relates to dead leads and the power of super strong follow-up. Mary, get us started by just talking about your philosophy as it relates to why you should follow up and why leads aren't dead if they say no in the first call, or if they say, let me think about it.
Well, you just said it all in one sentence. This does not have to mean if somebody says no, or if they have to think about it or talk to their great uncle who's going to pay for the consultation. That doesn't mean they're telling you no. And every no is closer to a yes. And that's really the mindset that you need to have going into these calls. It's just a not yet. It's just a not yet, one step closer to that yes. But you need to hold to the truth that you are the safest place for this individual to be. And if they picked up the phone and called you, you owe it to their future to ensure that they know that and to do everything that you can to ensure that they get there. So it's one step closer each and every time.
I was gonna say, Mary, I think what's unique about the way that we've always done it at Sterling and how you got into this when you started is it doesn't mean that they're gonna transact with you, but like Mary's last statement, like you owe it to them to make sure they go through the process. Like, where did they get to a place where they can now take a next step forward? It doesn't mean necessarily going through divorce, but like, did they connect with maybe a therapist or a counselor or whatever the thing is that's next, so that they can move forward in their life? Because it doesn't necessarily, it's not a let's do a hard sell and make sure that we get everybody that calls a divorce or get involved with their family so that they have another stressful moment. Like, that's not what was meant by that, but it is our job. They entered our world, and we feel like it's our responsibility to care for them and move them to the next step in moving forward in their life. And whether that's with us or with another resource, that's what we want to make sure we're doing. And that's what a good salesperson on the phone is going to do. And that's what that no or not yet or I'm not ready yet actually means. But if there's no next step, follow up. Care for the person. That's why they called you. Be different than everybody else in the marketplace.
Totally agree. I think the most powerful stat that we have as it relates to looking at all of Sterling's data is that 75% of our revenue gets recorded during our follow-up system. It doesn't happen on the first call. It happens on subsequent calls. And knowing that and having the narrative that some of these family law firms have, which is like, if I don't close on the first call, they're dead. I should never do anything with them. The amount of lost revenue there is pretty astounding.
It's crazy to me when I think back to my time as an intake agent, and I spent 4 years in that position. The majority of my deals, closes, whatever you want to say, it was not first time callers. It was follow up. I loved follow up. I loved the last week of the month because I was sitting going through the last 60 and 90 days of my clients that I previously spoke to, and ensuring that they knew that we are the safest place to go through this if they choose to go through this. But we're also the safest place to give referrals, to give the best solution for whatever the pain that they're in. And that's the mindset that you need to have. Is I love when Tony said they entered your world. Yeah, they picked up the phone and they called the law firm, which was a really scary phone call to make. Now it's your job to treat them well and to treat them with truth and love in a way that's meaningful for their future with their families.
Can we just, like, when we're talking about close, we're still talking about setting a consultation. That's what we're talking about here. So there's a lot of activity that happens post close, because some of the 75%, that's on consultations becoming funded agreements, and then another statistic we're talking about, I think we're talking about intake. So intake specifically, a lot of your value is not happening on that first phone call, or 40% is happening on all the follow up. So both on the post consultation, your 75% of your revenue is coming after that consultation date, and then even on the intake, more than 40% of your intake value, your sets, are going to come after that first phone call. So if you're not doing follow up on both sides of this, you are missing massive amounts of revenue. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure we're calibrated in what we're talking about, because we're talking about follow up. Follow up should be part of everybody's plan, uh, but it's on both parts of this operation. It's not just one or the other. It's both.
And they're a little bit different. Like, to answer Tyler's question, when they walk away, on the front end, the intake side, which is what we're focusing on for this next webinar, it's not generally because of price. They walk away because they didn't feel understood. Nobody could pinpoint the urgency or what the cost of doing nothing really is. The solution was not personal. It did not reflect the needs that their family actually had. No one led them to the decision. That's a huge one. And then they had unspoken concerns that you were too afraid, as the individual that answered their call, to go deeper than surface level. And so because you're not actually addressing the real concern, you're addressing the wrong one. And that's why they don't move forward.
So I want to jump around a little bit, because I think that's what you said is really important. And that if the first call, the potential client doesn't feel heard or understood, or maybe they're on the fence still, right? And they're not going to close anyway. What mistakes did maybe we make early on, or do you see our team make in that first call that they then can correct or fix later on?
Have you ever been to a dentist or a doctor's appointment where they're just asking you the historical questions about your family history, your medical history, the last time you were at the dentist? That's what it is. They share facts, not emotions. And in this industry, in these types of conversations, your questions have to dig deeper than tell me your email, your phone number, your county, the opposing party's name, what your maiden name was, what kind of case you're looking for. It's got to make the individual feel like they picked up the phone during the hardest season of their life and are going to talk to somebody that actually understands the pain that they're in. And follow-ups need to truly hear, I heard what you said about your children and you missing drop off at school. Everything that we talk about now relates to ensuring that you can drop your child off at school. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's really like having the opportunity to dig deep.
Yeah. Yep. And then that goes into the next one, the cost of doing nothing, the cost of waiting, the lack of urgency. Well, if I'm on the phone with Tyler and he's telling me that he really misses the fact that he can no longer drop his sons off at school and he's missing baseball practices, and he walks away from scheduling that consultation, where I know that that's the first step closer to allowing him back that time with his child, and I fail to mention that. I fail to pinpoint, Tyler, I know that you're in pain, and I cannot imagine having to go another week missing all of your son's baseball practices, when I know Holly's at the other end of this, waiting for you, waiting to get you that time back. If I'm not going to say that to you, missed opportunity. Missed opportunity to connect with that person, to make them feel fully understood, and to pinpoint that, hey, doing nothing is a decision, and that decision is not one that I'm going to allow you to make without really addressing it.
There's so much nuance and like detail to what you said, because I think if I'm listening to this, I'm like, yeah, we have our call center. Yeah, we ask those tough questions. But your point about, like, once they divulge something so important to them, that becomes the root at which the rest of the conversation has to apply to.
It's your beacon. It's your homing beacon pointing you to the direction that they're going, right? Like, your follow-up post that has to be simple, and it has to guide them towards that beacon, because they told you why they're in pain. So now guide them towards the solution.
Yeah, Mary, you in the webinar we asked two questions, really to uncover what we're talking about here, which is their dominant buying motive. And like, Everybody has one of these, and it's your job as the intake person to get it. And like once you get it, okay, now it's your job to manage it and to move it forward as it pertains to like what did they tell you, and how do you help them solution that thing. And it's not complicated, but most people just stay surface level and stay transactional, and then they have a hard. Then they look at their numbers and they're like, why aren't we performing well? We need more leads. Like that's literally where the conversation goes, and it's because we're not doing the job that we should be doing. And the reality is like we're not trying to be manipulative, but everybody has a dominant buying motive for everything that you purchase, whether it's a backpack or a shirt or getting your hair styled a certain way. Like you have a DBM for all of those things, and like if you're on the sales side of that, it's your responsibility to figure out why, and then okay, now how do I move this thing forward and tie back to that thing constantly, because that they just told you the answer. What are you doing with the answer? Like they gave you the answer key. Wouldn't it be great if you were in school and the teacher always gave you the answer key to every single test or question? You'd know what to do with it. They ask those simple questions. I mean, what are those two questions? Like ask the questions and do tiebacks.
Exactly. And it also helps you in your follow-ups. So if you don't have enough information, your follow-ups are going to feel very transactional. They're going to feel very chasing rather than leading. But when you dig deeper, when you understand what is actually at stake, what is the pain, well, then every single conversation can be different. But again, it's always pointing towards that beacon. What step are we taking to get you one no closer to the yes?
Yeah, Mary, what like just do the generic gross follow up to Tyler, and then do the one that you just described, Tyler, about him wanting to pick up his kids and do baseball. Like it's so different. It does. The second one doesn't feel like a sales call. It
Yeah,
doesn't feel like anything other
I would
than
be I would be happy to. So Tyler, the gross follow-up would be, "Hey Tyler, I talked to you last night and I'm just seeing how you're doing since that conversation. Are you ready to book that consult?" That's
No, who is this again? What?
exactly. Oh, yeah, exactly. It's
they'll do
terrible.
that for sure.
Okay. If I were following up with Tyler and I knew that his sons were at stake and the time with his sons mattered to him, that conversation sounds, "Hey Tyler, this is Mary from Sterling Lawyers. Did I catch you at an okay time?"
You did. Thanks, Mary.
Okay. Tyler, I've been thinking about your situation all night, and I came across a YouTube video on father's rights on our website that I'm going to text over to you. But what I really wanted to do today is focus on the cost of waiting, because I know you value time with your child, and I know that you value all of those moments that are going to build deeper relationships with your child. And I'm not willing to let you have another week go by where that is at risk. So, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to send you that YouTube video, and I want to take the next step with you to ensure that your children and you have a really good relationship as you progress towards your future. Have you thought at all about the decision that you and I ended with on the next step for you and your children? And that consultation with Holly is still available. So I would love to book that for you today.
Thanks so much, Mary. I'm ready.
Great.
When was the last time your team called to book a lead who didn't book? If you can't answer that, neither can your intake team. And that means every lead who said, "I need to think about it," is sitting in your CRM right now without an owner, without a follow-up date, and no next step. That lead is not dead. That's revenue that you will not get that you forgot about. At Sterling Lawyers, 75% of our revenue comes after that first conversation. 75%, meaning even if you just do this poorly, you will change your firm overnight. We track this across thousands of cases, and we found the money in the follow-up. We're teaching the exact follow-up system behind that number in a free training. How do we prepare for every call? What do our agents actually say? And what is the cadence that runs behind every lead until they book? Please see the link below so that you can sign up today. That's it. To me, like the difference is so much more. There's so much more heart. Like I matter to you. Oh, you were thinking about me? Like you were thinking about my situation?
Yeah, you remember the details like that. it's all in the details. Like, and it's not hard. Like, we're not trying to create anything crazy. It's just like people will go where they feel like they're cared for and they're going to get serviced well. This is a huge decision.
It is. And at the beginning of this, I gave you, I think, 5 reasons why people didn't move forward. And I said, no one is leading them to the decision. I think it was the 4th one that I said at the beginning. That's a huge deal. These individuals calling a family law firm are worn down. They are worn out. They are heartbroken. They are in physical, emotional, and spiritual pain and turmoil. They can't make decisions. Most of them physically cannot make the decision. You have to do it for them. And you have to do it in a way that is spoken with truth and love. I know I am the safest place. When a client calls any of my intake agents, they are in the safest hands possible, going towards the safest attorneys, leading them to the safest outcomes for their family. That is the belief that you must have when you're answering these clients because they cannot make the decision and you're going to have to do it with them. But in order to do that with them, you have to do the 4 blocks as well, and you have to do your follow-up well. It has to be personal. It has to be about them. Tiebacks have to exist at every opportunity presented to you and that client.
So just like a weird nuance in here that probably is not caught. Us living this out has made us a better firm because you know what happens when the intake team doesn't feel like that? They're going to say something about our service. And we're going to have a real conversation about how we're servicing our clients so that our intake team feels very comfortable and not lying about our service. And it creates a way better firm, way healthier firm because we're actually all working together and we're not trying to create this like just this thing that produces money. Like we're actually trying to live out what we idealized in our mind about building a law firm and helping people. And it creates a way healthier culture and it creates conversations that are uncomfortable but real. And that's how you build a great firm. It's not just this process. It's okay, what is the outcome of this process actually being implemented? Because one of them is higher performance, but you're not going to get higher performance if Mary and her team don't feel like they're lying to people all the time. You're going to actually create opportunities for you to have real conversations that you may not be having today or you may be avoiding having today. But that's the reality because what's going to happen is that person's going to call back. Mary's going to get a call with a current client and they're going to be pissed off about something. And like sometimes those are illegitimate. And we all know that there's a lot of things that happen in a family law case that are where clients have feelings. And we still have to own a portion of the pie that's reality in terms of what we created. But there's going to be patterns that emerge, and someone like Mary's going to bring them up in a leadership type meeting, and you're going to have a way better firm at the root. And maybe it's just we need to set better expectations with our clients going into certain types of scenarios because we didn't do a good job prepping them before a hearing. So now they feel like they haven't been serviced well. But Mary's going to hear that, and then if we don't do anything about it, we're going to sell worse on the intake side because we're going to feel inauthentic, and the clients are going to feel like we're trying to sell them. So there's a whole bunch in here that is unbelievably valuable for creating a great culture, great firm, great service, and really helping clients move forward in a hard part of their life.
Yeah, well said. I was thinking, Tony, as you were talking about how well and natural Mary gave us that example, and I assume that a lot of firms have like one killer, one amazing, great person on the phones, but we've decided to really scale our firm, right? Which means that we can't be reliant on unicorns. We got to be able to scale this process out. And so while Mary is a unicorn in her own right, Mary, how do you keep the team accountable? How do you ensure that they all are believing this, that we are the safest place? And how do you make sure that they're doing the follow-up in the right sequence?
So 3 ways. QA is the biggest advantage you have because you'll catch these moments and you'll be able to then coach to those specific moments. And this is very heavy, right? Like you have to think about an intake agent has a bucket, and each day that bucket is going to get fuller and fuller with the details that are being provided to them. These are not easy calls to handle, right? And there's got to be ways to relieve that full bucket. So how do you do that? Well, you QA them and you make sure that they feel supported when they do make a mistake, and that it's okay to make mistakes, and that we're going to fix it together and we're going to fix it fast. The second thing, though, is daily huddles. You come together as a team, you talk about what's not working, what are the things that need to be fixed in the next 24 to 36 hours. And then my favorite thing in the entire world is role playing. I had 2 huddles already this morning, and role playing was the main focus of both of them. You don't have all the right answers individually, but you have them as a group. And you can role play together, which is the best and the safest place to do it, because you're not doing it with clients, and you can learn from each other, and you can utilize what one agent is doing on a new agent that has never experienced that situation before, and you all get better over time. You all get better.
One of the best things for an intake person to hear is like hear how the story ended. So like, and QA is going to be a helpful part of that, because you're going to find wins and you're going to be able to shout them out. Like you talk about the bucket that's being filled, they know they're doing a good job and they're impacting people positively. That it's going to like spur them to continue doing that. So like those types of things they're fairly large and they go a really long way.
That's a great point. Is being able to ensure that not only the team's doing the right thing, but that there's an opportunity to shout them out and reward them, and make sure that they feel that love, because that's only going to compound the belief that they're in the right spot.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons. Like one of the reasons we do reviews is for our people. It has way more to do with internally than it does just external validation. Because if our team can see and feel like, oh man, this really matters. I am making an impact with the people that we're serving. It has a really good uh, impact on those team members, and they get a sense of pride, and they all the baggage that they hear on the inbound every day. They're like, okay, there's a reason I'm doing this. It feels more purpose driven than just transactional. Then you get better performance as a result, because now it's purpose driven. I can see the purpose, I can see the outcome. Oh man, I'm so glad we were able to do that for client so and so. So there's a lot there, because these are hard conversations. There's a lot of baggage that our teams have to endure emotionally, because these are good people in the worst times of their life. Usually that's typically the saying in family law, is you got great people at their worst point.
Man, I want to get tactical, just for our listeners, on if they are enjoying what you're talking about, but are like, how do I implement follow up in my firm? Like one example is, I know you, every unconverted lead gets an account like owner, like a named owner, like this. You are responsible for going to follow up on this. What other things like that did you have to implement so that the team could scale?
Yeah. So 100% correct in your first statement that if you did the initial fact finding with the individual, you know what the pain points are and what the tiebacks are. You owe it to that person to follow them through until they essentially tell you, I no longer want to hear your voice ever again in my entire existence. That's when you let them go. But also, you had to implement a follow up, like a follow up process. And what that looks like is very different for each individual. So, in our system, we have a 90-day follow up process. It's not one call every 90 days. Tony can walk you through the details of how these are generated, but it goes on for 90 days. Here's the asterisk that goes along with that. The second I get you back on the phone, Tyler, and you and I are no longer just conversing via text message or voicemails, but I'm actually talking to you live. My job at the end of that conversation is to lock in either a consult or to lock in another date and time, a specific date and time that you and I are going to follow up on the next thing that is going to get you closer to that yes. That 90-day process starts over on that day. So my longest client that I've ever followed up with, her name is Elaine. It was 18 months long, 18 months on an annulment case that I will never forget. She was the sweetest woman in the entire world and was in a very painful situation that couldn't make the decision for 18 months. And that was okay. And she kept apologizing every single time we set up a callback. I know we did this 6 times before, Mary. I know I'm just not ready. It's not my life. It's not my pain. It's her pain. My job is to get her to the safety. And so I'm going to follow up with you until you tell me I never want to hear your voice again, Mary, which she doesn't want to hear my voice. So that's what it is. You need to have a follow-up process and you need to be okay, have a thick enough skin to think of no's as a not yet, and not yets are one step closer to that yes.
Yeah, to me, this is all about like having a CRM, using the CRM, and keeping it clean. There are so many firms that we talk to in our sales process, and we'll ask, "Oh, do you have a CRM?" Yeah, but I also have this spreadsheet, or I also have this, napkin that I take notes on throughout the day. And I think one thing that Sterling's done very, very well is Salesforce is the Bible. Like if it doesn't live in Salesforce, it doesn't live.
Doesn't exist. Don't care. Don't care. Not really.
So, thank you both for your time. This is amazing. We are going to be doing a webinar on our follow up process. So, a little spoiler alert. This is a preview. On our webinar, you're actually going to get our exact follow up process. We're going to walk you through it step by step. Today was more of a conversation. That'll be more of an educational seminar, if you will. But I really hope if you're listening to this, that you enjoy this conversation. If you want to know more, please sign up for our webinar. It is totally free, and it will be listed in the show notes as far as dates and times and links and all the things. But really appreciate your time today, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.